Hey, what's going on, guys? Dan over here, and we're back for another episode of Spilling the Tea. Man, I can't believe we're on episode 20. And for episode 20, I was joined by Nicole Thorneycroft and Terra White. They're part of what makes up Focus Realty Group, KW Home Group Realty based in Guelph. And we had a really good conversation. We talked a little bit, obviously, about interest rates, but we also spoke of what is to come in the fall market, their predictions, and then we got into RESPs and different types of ways to kind of plan for your children's future. Obviously, things are getting a lot more expensive. RESPs could be a good vehicle, but then Tara discussed a few other options that she was exploring as her children start to get to that age where they're looking at getting into post-secondary education. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. It was awesome speaking with them. And yeah, check it out. Thank you guys for joining me.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that you guys are sitting outside enjoying what little left of the summer we have. But if it does start to rain, run inside, take cover. Yeah. So let's start off first, Tara, and actually, Nicole, both of you. Maybe you can kind of give me a little bit of insight on how you guys got into real estate.
Okay. Well, I've been in real estate. I'm coming up on my 10th year. Prior to this, my background was in social work and accounting. So two really great assets to have in coming into real estate. Understanding people and numbers seems to be quite complementary. I also stayed home with my kids for about 8 years and prior to coming to real estate. And I think that that's really given me a competitive advantage on, bringing all my mom's skills on how to manage crazy schedules and, problem solving and things coming up out of nowhere. It's been a really great experience so far the last 10 years. And now beginning in Focus Realty Group, I'm super excited to launch a team of my own with the visions of being very family oriented and client service based and stuff like that. And I'm happy to welcome Nicole to the team, and she can talk a little bit about herself.
Awesome.
My turn. So I have been in real estate for a total of almost 3 years, and I started as an internal sales agent for another top performing team here in Guelph. Before that, I went to school. I did post-secondary for community and justice services, and I've always volunteered a lot and tried to get out into the community. And now I'm here with Terra at Keller Williams and Focus Realty. So
that's amazing. That's awesome, guys. And I think, your skills definitely translate really well when it comes to helping clients out with finding a home. Because you got to put on so many different hats, right? When you're helping people, whether they're buying or selling a home. And maybe we can talk a little bit about this, Tara and Nicole. What are you guys seeing today in today's market? Like, what kind of challenges are people facing when it comes to buying a home or even selling?
Well, you know what? Like, I think the biggest challenge is just being able to afford everything, right? We have interest hikes, obviously. I mean, the great news being, and I know we'll talk about a little bit later, that we just had a recent hike rate freeze. But everything in our world has gotten a little bit more expensive. So what I am hearing from my clients is, just affordability issues, making sure that they're still, able to do the things that are important to their families, going on the vacations they were hoping to take, as well as being able to afford their mortgage. And then you introduce the fact that we have an inventory shortage. From a family, standpoint, detached homes are rare and far and few between, and the student housing crisis and international, crisis and stuff like that. So there's a lot of dynamics at play right now that we're definitely experiencing, and it's really requiring a lot of out of the box thinking, problem solving in order to offer people housing security.
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge for a lot of people just wrapping their head around how quickly the market's changed, and not only with real estate, but everything else involved with it. And we can see that like the price of living has just kind of gone through the roof. And along with that, the challenges that homeowners face. And one thing that comes up quite a bit that I notice here is that people are afraid to make the move. Like they want to move, but then they're not sure if they sell, what are they going to get and where are they going to go? So that definitely becomes a challenge. How about for you, Nicole? What are you seeing out there?
I've noticed I've been working with quite a few people who are renting going into buying a home. And I think the hardest part for them is saving up for that down payment, especially with, how rental rates have completely skyrocketed as well. So it's making it harder for people who are renters, even harder than it was before, to jump into the market now and become homeowners. So first-time home buyers, it's been a little tricky.
It has been. The obviously from my side, I see a lot of people that are having more difficulty with qualifying simply because of the stress test or that mortgage qualifying rate. And then, like you said, the cost of living and rent is through the roof. Tara, I sent you an article, and I know it's a little bit of an outlier, but it was crazy. These people had and they were downtown Toronto, where we know, okay, cost of living is a little bit higher, but I think their rent went from like $2,500 to $9,500, which is just asinine. But I think that was probably, you're right. They didn't want them to stay in that property, so that's one way to get them out. But unfortunately, that's something that is part of the market, and one of the reasons why it's probably a good idea to get in and purchase. So if, let's say whether you're a student or you are parents, obviously in today's market, you had mentioned too with student housing, that becomes a little bit of a challenge. Maybe we can talk about that. What's going on? Because I know with the strong immigration policy, we have a lot of international students coming in. It's definitely putting more pressure on finding affordable housing for students. But what are you guys seeing?
Well, it really first became apparent to me. I have a few rental properties myself, and we were seeing students in certain types of housing that we really hadn't seen before. They were branching out into other parts of the city. Like typically, we would have students kind of living in and around the University of Guelph areas, but we were seeing more students come to the west end, to the east end, to the further outliers with it. Sorry, there's a truck going by right now, so that was really my first exposure to it. And some of the conversations I was having with those students was that if they weren't able to secure some housing within a certain period of time, that they weren't going to be able to attend school at all and have to stop their education altogether, which was a little bit scary for me. Mm-hmm. I was shocked that if they couldn't find a house, that they would no longer be able to actually attend the university and the programs that they were already registered in like second year, third year. So that was the first sign that there was a problem, and that was about a year ago.
Yeah, and that that's just adds, sort of compounds the different type of challenges that students are facing today, not only with their education, but then also finding shelter. You actually shared with me, and I'll put it up on the screen now, but this was an article. Why would you share a single room, would you share a single room with 3 other people? Why student housing is in a crisis. And this wasn't too long ago. This was actually only a couple months ago, but it looks like there's definitely an issue here that needs to be addressed on student housing, because it's one thing whether or not if you're getting into a program or you're continuing on your post-secondary education, but then also trying to figure out, okay, well, am I going to have a place to actually live, and what's that going to look like? Definitely challenging for students right now. So I guess we can talk maybe about that. Like, what is something someone can do if they're in a situation where, maybe they're worried about their...
You cut out a little bit.
All right. Am I back now?
You're back now.
Cool. Yep,
we're good.
So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, what can students do? What can parents do to kind of help in this situation?
We can't hear you.
Oh, no.
Just give a little dance when you're back.
All right, I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah. So,
okay, your question.
Yeah, my question to you is, what kind of things can students and parents do to help with this challenge?
I got half of it. So what students and parents can do to help with this challenge?
Yeah, with the housing challenge we're facing.
Well, obviously, you're going to have a better opportunity if your parents can, secure a home that they own. That will make sure that you're not dealing with any landlord eviction issues, or much like your article that you had spoken about, where you have, certain units not under rent control. Anything built after 2018 is those properties that we were referring to in that other article. But, if you can be in charge of where you're living, you have a lot more opportunity to have an uninterrupted education. So obviously purchasing isn't everybody's option. So getting on rental lists, talking and communicating with realtors so that you have, the fastest access to rentals that do come up. Sometimes we do have, behind the scenes pocket rentals for landlords who are nervous about going online and advertising on a Kijiji platform. We are dealing with a considerable amount of fraud. So again, a realtor can definitely help protect your first and last month's rent and ensuring that you're finding good spaces for your kids to live in, because ultimately safety is the primary concern. So those are some of the things kind of like traditionally that we would recommend.
You did mention fraud, and that caught my ear because I had another article. I don't know if I shared it with you earlier, but high rents, scams, and paperwork make housing a struggle for international students. And this isn't just a Winnipeg exclusive, but they did focus on what's going on here in Winnipeg. But we see this, right? Anytime there's an opportunity for someone to make money, unfortunately, they may take that opportunity with students kind of coming out the short end of things. I actually had a student. Parents reach out to me, and their daughter was going to school up north. I think it was Nipissing or somewhere. Anyway, same thing, got frauded. Property didn't even exist, not even in the town. And she was out first and last month rent. So that's something to be careful of.
Some cautions there that I would always say is, especially if you're out of town, like you're a couple hours away, definitely get connected with a realtor. They can do a lot of things. One, they can preview the property for you and give you an unbiased view of what it is. Some of the things that people don't realize too is that when we go through properties for them on their behalf and doing a virtual one, we can also let them know how the property smells. And I know that sounds so weird, but sometimes like houses have a strong odor from previous pets or smoking, or there's a lot of different things, or that they're just extremely damp, those types of things. So definitely connect with a realtor. If they can walk in the house, that's a huge asset. If they can verify that the house actually isn't also currently for sale, because that's usually where scammers will get a lot of the photos that look great and look professional, is because they've taken them off of a listing that's on like MLS and such. So there's a lot of opportunity. Get connected with a realtor that will do the hard work, especially if you are out of town. Make sure that you're not just talking to somebody online. These are really, really, really great tips to help protect your investment and ultimately make sure your child gets into a place that actually exists too.
Yeah, I love those tips. You actually triggered the back of my memory. I had like this horrible experience. I went to the University of Guelph years ago, and when you mentioned smells, came back. So I was living in Toronto, came back to Guelph after this summer was over, and got a room sight unseen. Unfortunately, it was in a townhouse, and everyone was gone for the summer. Someone had left chicken out. Raw chicken. And I'll tell you, 3 months of raw chicken sitting out, you could not. We had to leave. Like
Couldn't get it out.
So that's a very good point. Try to get there in person. All right. So maybe let's talk a little bit about RESPs. You did bring this up. I think it's a great strategy, maybe not for all people, but it's something we really need to kind of take a look at when it comes to saving for your children's future, for example. So let's talk RESPs versus maybe some other asset classes like, I don't know, real estate. Maybe we can chat a bit.
Well, why not do the best of both worlds?
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about both of them. So what is an RESP?
Well, an RESP is an educational savings plan that you basically start as soon as you possibly can to save for your child's education when they do decide to go to university or college.
Right.
We started one when our daughter was first born. She's turning 17 this year. So we've been doing a small contribution, a very manageable contribution since then. And in all honesty, we just got the statement from our financial advisor, and we were looking at the amount, and we were like, okay, well, she only has 12 more months left, where the government does give you a little bit of a bonus because they are encouraging parents to save for their their kids' education earlier versus later, and obviously talk to your financial advisor about how everything works specifically. But they do a bit of a top up. I believe it's in and around 20%, and for all that in matching your contributions. So when we got our statement, we started talking about, what can we do with this money? How best can we apply it? And wondered, because as the government website states, is that you can use it for tuition, you can use it for books, you can use it for rent, you can use it really for anything, as long as your child qualifies for one of these institutions. So I guess how it works is you submit their approval from the university or college to your financial institution. They make sure that it qualifies, and then you get access to the RESP money that you have been saving for however long. So my husband and I were just chatting about it, and we thought, what if we were to use that money? And this is thinking outside the box, because I'm always trying to come up with new ways to get my clients into housing, because I really do feel like it is such a an opportunity and such a benefit for your future forward wealth also. But if we could get our kids into home ownership at the same time as they are entering school, what would that look like from a practicality standpoint? What advantages could that offer? And could we get the RSP money to be that down payment? Everything that I can tell, I know a few families have done it. I'm going to be putting where my money is, or my mouth where my money is, and I'm going to be doing it myself. I will be purchasing a property for our children when we hit that threshold, in lieu of using that money towards tuition. The reason I say that is because I know my daughter's going to be applying for scholarships. I know she's going to be applying for grants. There's a lot of opportunity and a lot of push for governments to get our children, and a lot of supports for our governments to get our children into educated. They want a strong educated workforce, population, and those are all excellent things. So if we can get them into housing as homeowners, as parents, and utilize the other opportunities that are out there for our children to get, additional support for their education, either through OSAP, all the other things that I mentioned, loans, student loans. It really could offer a variety of serious financial advantage in the years to come.
Yeah, I love that thinking. Definitely outside the box, and it's great that you're in a position where you're, ready to kind of try it out on yourself. So we're gonna have to check back and see what you find out. And obviously, I do encourage anyone that's considering this. One, we can leave a link for some of the information I know you sent me on the government website on RESPs, but also check in with a financial planner and maybe an accountant and see if it's right for you. But it's such a great sort of option to kind of look at, and setting up your children to perhaps get into real estate is not a bad idea, right? Because they do need a place to stay, and we know it's quite challenging to get into the market right now. So if you can get any help to get in, why not? I've seen more people come across our desks that are looking for exactly that type of strategy. Like, hey, our kids are going to school at the end of the year or in fall, or we're looking at the options out there and we don't like where they have to stay. So is there a possibility that we co-sign and we help them get in to the market earlier? So that could be an option. I know from a qualifying standpoint, the nice thing is if you are helping one of your children and you've got the down payment, or you have the ability to gifted funds for them, put them on title, and then you can also help them qualify. But more importantly, if it was a property that had an additional unit in it, let's say we just did one in Hamilton, and the folks decided to rent out the basement and the students were on the main floor, right? So you have some additional income that helps boost that application, buying power. You can get something a little bit bigger and then grow into it or fix it up and have it as an investment. So definitely some options there. I think they're worth exploring. So you got another year or so until you start deploying your strategy?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's a matter of finding the right location and convincing our daughter to, pick an institution that makes sense financially for housing. But at the end of the day, it is much easier for like if you're a homeowner, even as a student, you're going to have, potentially a roommate that's going to be paying towards your mortgage. You're going to have rent anyways, whether that's, to another landlord, but essentially you're paying yourself, which means the equity is being returned to you on the spot. And it is much easier, if I'm being completely straightforward, to pay off your student loans as already an existing homeowner than to try and become a homeowner while you have, student debt. It is a challenge to come up with at the end of your educational career and trying to find a job to save, like $60,000 to $100,000. If you start early enough in your RESP, it's not unreasonable that even with a monthly contribution of $150. Oh, did you lose me?
Yeah, it's okay.
You look fine.
Yeah. You're back now.
Where'd you get me to?
So you were just kind of saying it's a lot easier, and I think
I lost you now. Oh, okay.
We're back.
Good.
One of the things you had mentioned, which is so important, is that timing, right? So if you can get into the home ownership before having to deal with your student loans, because the other way around, where all of a sudden you're in the workforce, you've got your student loans, you're just starting out in your career, and trying to save for the down payment, let alone qualify for a mortgage, becomes incredibly difficult. So this is a good strategy to kind of say, okay, well, maybe we do it the other way around.
Yeah, and it doesn't take a lot. Like, in all honesty, when we started, we received the child tax benefit or baby bonus. I'm not entirely sure what it was called, 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. But it was $150 a month that we put away every single month without fail. It wasn't money we were used to even getting because we only got it because we had a child. So we put that money immediately away. We did top it up to about $250 when our son was born. And we have, a good amount. Like I said, it's not unreasonable that if you start early enough, you can have between $60,000 and $100,000 with, a good investment plan. Again, financial planners will advise you on what funds to be in, and then the government top up. Mm-hmm. It is very reasonable. It is very possible. Even if you're not a homeowner yourself right now, you have an opportunity if you have enough time and even just a little bit of money that you're able to part with. To create this opportunity for your children in 15 years from now, 20 years from now.
Yeah, love it. It's and the other thing too is if your son or daughter is actually going to be living in it, you can qualify for an insured mortgage too, right? So you can put less than 20% down on it and take advantage of that government CMHC program to help homeowners with it. So I like this strategy that you're looking to employ here, and I think more people need to seriously consider some alternative forms of helping save for that post-secondary education and being able to grow wealth at the same time. And you're right, you're either paying someone else's mortgage or you're paying your own. So important.
Well, and you have the security of knowing you're not going to be kicked out during the 4 years that you're in your program too, right?
Scrambling.
Another thing, if I put on my mom hat right now, another one of the benefits of actually owning your own property and having your child manage the day-to-days is you're teaching them a really strong life lesson about how to take care of a house, being responsible for the people that you bring into your property. They might actually get a better roommate or a better quality roommate because, it's their home that they could potentially be damaging or partying in or, and ultimately that will set them up to how to pay bills, being responsible for all of those things that really do set us up for success in life. And the last point I would want to make on that is that, if you have a much more comfortable, well taken care of, good roommates, you might actually study. Right?
Yeah,
it just sets you up on success on so many levels.
Yeah. Did you just take your mom's hat off now? I love that. But it's the way you're actually thinking about not only the financial setup for all of this, and setting your children up for that, but also the lessons in home ownership and responsibility, and because they have a vested interest in the property, yeah, maybe they'll look at it a little bit differently.
Yes.
That's a great way to look at it, for sure. 100%. So people have been talking, obviously you mentioned this briefly, the Bank of Canada, they made their announcement yesterday. Rates are basically flat. And I came out with a TikTok and I just basically said, hey, look, we're not sure if we've hit the peak or if this is just simply a pause. But what we do know is that, we're kind of coming out of things, whether it's a momentary pause and they have to do a little bit more. We're not entirely certain, but by most accounts, most economists, and it's difficult because everyone asks, well, where are rates going to go in the future? Where are they? And we don't have a crystal ball, but we can look at a lot of lagging indicators. I know I probably cut out for a second, right?
No, you didn't.
Oh,
You're good.
Okay.
You're great.
But we can look at a lot of lagging indicators, including unemployment, and those numbers are coming out tomorrow. And then some other things that kind of dictate possibly where rates are going. And one of the mechanisms to get inflation under control and get us back to our target is obviously interest rates. But there's, if we kind of zoom out a little bit, and I think I may have mentioned this when we had met in person, Terra, the average over the last 40 years is just slightly below where our 5-year fixed term is right now, right? We're about mid 5.5%. I think we've been spoiled over the last few years during the pandemic to that mindset of like 1 or 2% is like, absolutely, we got to wait for things to come back there. I strongly believe that we still haven't addressed our housing issues across the board, and it's still a great opportunity to get into real estate. But yeah, I mean, the prediction here is that rates may turn around, but we might not see it till the end of the year. The government really likes to push rates up quickly, but when it comes time to kind of bring things down, they take their time, right? So what are you noticing now? Are there a lot of your clients asking, like, should we wait? Maybe rates are going to get better. Like, what are you seeing?
My recommendation is, it really is. I think it's a great time to buy if you can afford the cost of carrying at this point in time. When rates start to come down, we are going to see, in my professional opinion, I think we're going to see purchase prices increase again. And it might be a dramatic increase simply because we are having such a housing shortage. And once we open up the possibility for international, folks to come in and purchase again, they are going to be buying them up as well. So because we have an inventory issue, we're still not seeing the starts and the builds and even the types of houses that we are hoping for. It's housing is going to be a lifelong requirement. So to think that the market isn't going to rebound once things become more affordable, I think is silly. So if you can get in right now while prices are low, when you see those rates start to come down, even if they're never going to come back to the 1 or 2%, but even at 3.5% or 4% interest rates, you are going to see that equity just come back into the market really, really quick, and you're going to be happy you bought. All those people who were like, oh, if only I had bought in 2015 or 2017, if I had known where it was going, even with the drop that we've seen, they're still better off. It's just a matter of, what mortgage are you locked into? What are your debt servicing ratios? What's your affordability when it comes to the rest of your life? Like, what kinds of things do you have? Multiple vehicles that you're paying for? Do you have children going to university? You need to make sure that you can afford your life along with the mortgage. So as long as you're being very pragmatic and realistic and not overextending yourself, I think you can pretty much weather the storm between the rates dropping and really creating yourself up for good future financial wealth in real estate.
Yeah, I love it. I think you hit the nail on the head with that too. It's and it's never a bad idea to check in and say, hey, where am I at? Like, maybe I'm not ready to buy right now, but at least come up with a plan and a strategy to say, okay, well, this is what I want to do, and work towards it. Because you're right. Like, looking back 2017, like I remember the first place I bought, downtown Toronto, Queens Quay, got it right out of university. And at the time I was like, oh my God, it's $167,000. Like,
Yes.
That's insane.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. And for
Yes.
me, and back then it was a lot of money, but you look at it now and you're like, well, I didn't even want to think about what that place is worth today. But
should have bought 10 of those.
Should have bought 10 of those, Terra.
Yeah.
Nicole, what are you seeing? So your cohort and your clients, what are you guys seeing right now?
And a new mom.
And a new mom. Congratulations.
Newish mom. Yeah. So I had never thought about using the RESP. I do contribute for my son, and he just turned 4. He's just about to turn 4. But I had never thought about it the way that Terra had. So when she mentioned it to me and we were chatting about this, it was, oh, wow. Like, yeah, I guess there really are different ways to get your kids into the market. When it comes to what I'm seeing now with clients, it's, yeah, some of them are holding off because of the interest rates, but you're right, it's always going to be a good investment to make. When I bought with my ex-husband in 2020, we thought that it was crazy that we were paying this amount for a house that, 4 or 5 years ago was going for far less. And then 2 years later, it had increased by like 30%. And we were like, oh, well, I guess it wasn't a mistake. It's never going to be a mistake to get into the market.
Yeah.
In whatever way you're able to.
Definitely. And you had mentioned, so your young one, 4 years old, you're getting CCB. And I know, Terry, you mentioned this too. For anyone that's wondering, child tax benefits, those credits can actually be used as additional income to help support a mortgage. So most lenders will use 100% of CCB payments every month, which is great because, it kind of moves the needle in the right direction when you're looking at affordability. That's awesome. I mean, as far as, everything else goes in the market, it's definitely going to be a different fall. But I think, there's a lot of opportunity for getting in and finding some value there. And guys, I would strongly recommend, I'm going to leave Nicole and Terra's information below this podcast so you guys can reach out to them to kind of, get their pulse on what's going on. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I'm going to check in because Terra, definitely we got to check in and figure out how your strategy goes. I think it's a great idea. Yeah. Before we leave though, I also wanted to mention, I know you had asked me this and you said, what can someone afford? And just to kind of put numbers out there, and obviously it's a moving target, right? Because we have a stress test that is conditional on the interest rates plus 2. And as that kind of moves up and down, it ebbs and flows. But if we assume, $60,000, $70,000 as a down payment and a household income just over $100,000, that could put you in a situation where you can buy a property around $500,000. So it kind of gives you an idea of what's out there right now and what those carrying costs are. But if you guys want to jump into those numbers, feel free to reach out to any of us and we'll walk you through it. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and let's circle back soon.
I just want to say one last thing.
Definitely. Always.
Okay. So kind of like, because we're looking at a plan that's kind of outside the box, that is potentially, 15, 20 years down the road. Maybe the government changes it and says you can't put it down for, sorry, let me start again. You can't use it as a down payment for a property. Worst case scenario, you have $60,000 to $70,000, say, for your child's education that you can apply in any way, shape, or form. So in my opinion, investing in this type of fund or plan for your child and their future is never a bad idea. And although it seems that I can do it right now, if things change, always, like you said, keep in touch with your financial planners to ensure that the rules haven't adjusted. We are talking about a sizable timeline if you're beginning today. But, it's not going to be a bad investment. It's not going to be wasted. It's going to your children, which obviously we are living and breathing for every single day. And don't be afraid of it. And I'm starting a year. I'm thinking about this a year in advance. So if you're out there thinking, oh, my kid's not going to university until next year, it really is not too early to start talking to a realtor or to, your lender to decide and to figure out your best plan of attack to becoming homeowners for yourselves or for your family.
Yeah, really well said. And that's, it is definitely more of a long-term investment horizon. Things change all the time. So it's always good to just kind of check back in and see. But like you said, there's, I don't see much downside in saving and investing in your children's future. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
So thank you again, both of you for joining me today, and we'll chat soon.
It was our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.